Good morning, Dan and Amy. So we're going to talk to our friend, best-selling author Brad Thor momentarily, but I wanted to tee Brad up.
Okay.
With a little Colonel Ralph Peters. He was on with Bill O'Reilly talking about the president's continued cleaning out of Gitmo, so that these terrorists can go back to committing terrorist acts against the West, including targeting U.S. troops and foreign service personnel.
And they go back with a new anger toward the U.S. because they were cooped up for so long.
Right, and Ralph Peters made the point. I mean, it's been quantified by the intelligence community, to a certain margin of error, of the percentage of those released who have returned to jihad. Peters referenced this.
Despite the interagency facade, it's a unilateral process. The president wants them gone. Now, we also make a great ballyhoo about vetting the countries that are getting them. They've sent them to Saudi Arabia, to Gulf states, to Uruguay. But really, there's not a serious follow-up thereafter. And so up to a third of them have gone back to the battlefield.
We're talking about hundreds. And Peters, his criticism of the policy with respect to Gitmo, not limited to the Obama regime, he also points to two mistakes the Bush administration made.
And Guantanamo, whether or not you think it was a great idea, you need some place to hold these people. When we took all of them prisoner, we had not thought it through. And the Bush administration made two mistakes. The first one was capturing all these guys, many of whom were worthless. They should have been killed on the battlefield. And the second mistake was when the global left and media turned Guantanamo into this house of horrors, the Bush administration didn't fight back.
I think both of those critiques have merit. And
but then there's
Ralph
where
Peters,
he drops the mic afterwards.
He summed up. Ralph Peters is kind of the sexual chocolate of military analysts on Fox News. He comes up with the mic drop lines.
And now we're down from 241 down to 61, 19 more planned to release. This is about Obama establishing a legacy, foreign policy and security legacy. And I'll tell you, compare legacies. Lincoln freed the slaves. Obama freed the terrorists.
Zing!
You know what?
It's
starting to grow on me.
And by the way, let's recall, it is President Obama who has previously compared himself to Lincoln. He's not saying who the better president was.
But
he's just saying they're in the same conversation. So Ralph Peters joined that conversation, and I enjoyed it very much.
Okay, Forrest.
And I always enjoy speaking to Brad Thor very much. His new book, the latest Scott Harvath spy novel, is Foreign Agent, flying off the shelves and off Amazon. Brad Thor, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be with you. And double bonus points for the Mr. Randy Watson. Give it up for Sexual Chocolate reference.
Thank you very much. And I'm impressed that you knew the character's name from Coming to America. That's very impressive.
That's my travel name. That's how I check into hotels.
And and it's interesting because you also wear the powder blue tuxedo when you travel.
I do, and I do a heck of I believe the children are our future as well. So it's just a great thing.
All right, so you heard Trump give his speech on how he would move to eradicate ISIS were he president on Monday, and you've heard Hillary Clinton essentially touting the same lines as President Obama and continuing to be an apologist for policy choices like cleaning out Gitmo and returning terrorists to the battlefield. Are you warming up to Trump as the least offensive alternative yet?
Well, it's funny you should say that. I've spent the last 48 hours throwing up in my bathroom in my office. I published a piece 2 days ago on hotair.com where I said, listen, we're now at the point where McMullen may be a nice guy. Gary Johnson, I met him in Chicago. He was friends of some friends of mine on the near north side, and I had breakfast with him. Nice guy. They're not going to win. It's either going to be Hillary or it's going to be Trump. And people need to take a good, hard look at both of them and say, what does America look like with them at the helm? And it is an we don't have a good choice. They both suck.
Right. Well, thank you.
So where
are you leaning?
Who sucks less?
Yes.
Well, there's no question. I mean, I know what Hillary will do. She's coming for my guns. She's going to stack the Supreme Court. So all these things that were important, where we saw the Hobby Lobby decision, where we saw, how about this one, Chicago? How about McDonald versus Chicago? We finally have concealed carry in Illinois. You finally have it. I left so I could get it in Tennessee, but you finally got it there. Hillary will stack the Supreme Court. That is probably one of the biggest things I'm coming down to right now is Hillary has told me what she will do. Hillary is an absolute enemy of everything I hold dear. Trump may be lying to me, but Trump is telling me that he's going to appoint people that are originalists. And he's also said, he admitted to Hugh Hewitt in last week, he said, listen, Hugh, if I don't adhere to the list or originalists like the judges I have on my list of 11 people, then McConnell should block me. McConnell should not go ahead and do the advising consent on any of my nominees.
So,
He'd be right to do that.
No, wait, I'm trying to love Donald. I'm trying to at least like him enough to try and
You've already said
myself.
You've already said you're voting for him.
No, then I backed off because I did back off because I'm still undecided because even what he just did, he is plowing through campaign managers. He's on his third one.
You're undecided between who and who.
No, to me, that
that's
shows
the other
a sign of lack of. No, he has no lack of self-control and an inability to work with others.
Well, you know what? You're completely right. And putting Steve Bannon in he's doubling down on the stuff he did in the primaries. He's not going to take anybody's advice now. He's put in a yes man. That's exactly what he's done. So Trump is Trump's own worst enemy. And it's astounding to me that he doesn't realize it. But I think Trump has such severe narcissistic personality disorder that he cannot receive constructive criticism, and he's incapable of keeping his feet out of his mouth. He's gonna. It's not never Trump people who are going to lose this election. It's Trump. Trump is toxic, and he's the worst candidate ever. And he's going up against the second worst. And it's unbelievable that the GOP couldn't pull off a better candidate. We certainly had our choice from better people.
Well, wait a second. So, all right. So we got to get down to brass tacks here, Brad. So the arguments you made about the Second Amendment, about the Supreme Court, would logically lead one to believe that you're going to vote for Trump. And
well, I have a luxury, and it is a cop-out, but I have a luxury of being in the state of Tennessee where I do not have – it's going to go red. It's going to go for the Republican. Listen, I am not throwing my support behind Trump, and I'm not saying I'm going to vote for Trump. What I am saying is that now that all the shenanigans of the primary are over, now that there has been no pivot from Trump – I was holding out hope there was going to be a pivot. There's been no pivot. So now I'm
maybe
left
this week.
looking at two absolutely horrific candidates, and I have to say, what is the best for liberty? Because my allegiance isn't to Trump, isn't to Hillary Clinton, isn't to the Democrats or the Republicans. My allegiance is to the country and to liberty. Now, Glenn Beck fights with me and says, oh, Trump could turn out to be a dictator. Yeah, we'll deal with that when it happens. Right now, I'm very concerned about the Supreme Court.
Well,
and I can't stand Trump. I despise him as a person.
I know. It's a horrible conundrum.
Well, what about choices like this? Hillary Clinton certainly was a part of the foreign policy decisions of this administration. We mentioned Gitmo. And now Wall Street Journal confirming yesterday what anybody with a couple of marbles rolling around in their skull knew, that it was a payment for hostage. The $400 million in euros and francs was a payment, a ransom payment for the release of those American hostages back in January. And the administration, not only did they undermine their own American policy, plus their stated policy to which they suggested they adhere, they lied to us about what this was, that this was well choreographed and precisely timed for the money to be given to the Iranians in exchange for the Americans held prisoner.
Of course, and they did the same thing with Bo Bergdahl. I guarantee you that the Haqqani terror network was paid cash while we also coughed up 5 Gitmo detainees. Obama trades money. He trades whatever the hostage takers want. He's done nothing but encourage hostage taking with this behavior. So, in Clinton's part of the Obama administration, she's a disaster. Listen, I know that the only hope we have is that Donald Trump does half of what he's promising to do. Could he end up being unhinged and all this kind of stuff? Yeah, he might. But if our constitutional form of government is not capable of keeping somebody in check who goes unhinged, then we've got more problems than just Donald Trump.
Well, right, and we have a Republican Congress, and in all likelihood will continue to have Republican progress despite some of the dire predictions from the punditocracy, that will potentially and hopefully help him color inside the lines a little bit on some of these issues, but certainly on the matter of ISIS, you have to be generally pleased with what he's saying, the posture he's taking, particularly compared to the alternative.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, there's a reason Democrats have a reputation for being lousy when it comes to foreign policy issues. They just, this idea, Obama, and if we extend our hand, they'll unclench their fists and all this BS. The world is not a safer place now. The world is a more dangerous place after 8 years of Barack Obama. And the last thing we need on the foreign policy front is 4 more years of Obama and Clinton. When you look at the ledger, every single thing points to not voting for Hillary. The problem is Trump is such an incredible turbocharged jackass that, he's like Andrew Dice Clay. Some people play hard to get. I play hard to want or hard to love, whatever his punchline was.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be fun to have Donald Trump do a dirty limerick for his inaugural address?
I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, he's that classless and tasteless. Listen, again, severe narcissistic personality disorder. Trump is a bully. Trump is a jackass. There's no question. And people who are serious about their country are offended by a lot of what he does. But people who are serious about their country also know that Hillary Clinton is going to erase any vestige of liberty and freedom in this country. She's going to overregulate. The only way the Democrat vision for America succeeds, it's like Pac-Man. It has to gobble up individual liberty. So we lose if the Democrats win. And by we, I mean everybody, the entire country.
All right.
You don't like Gary Johnson, right? Nothing.
I may vote for Gary Johnson just because I know Tennessee will go for Trump. I may vote for him because I want to see the Libertarian Party get some more weight, so we can actually have an alternative to this the dying GOP. GOP is like Weekend at Bernie's. It's dead. It's just being propped up by Reince Priebus and a couple of other fools who don't belong anywhere near politics anymore.
All right, Brad Thor, I hope you feel better and stop throwing up in your office. Brad Thor, best-selling author, the Scott Harvath spy novel series, The Latest Foreign Agent. Brad, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Who's cleaning that up? And Brad joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.